Hello again, Brian Jennings, the Millennial Dragon. This channel is dedicated to processing my relationship with Quentin Tarantino. I'm the reason he canceled the movie Critic last April. Right? And when I didn't bend to his psychic whim last June at the Tribeca Film Festival, at a screening of Jackie Brown, right, at a conversation that Quentin had with De Niro, I was in the front row, right? He entered into a Faustian covenant to attempt to overwhelm my mind, to compel me to suicide, and now that he has failed, right, he's stolen my wisdom and descended into palpable black magic evil to attempt to destroy me. So we're reading the novel. I've written a novelization of my experiences. It's called Building a Coven, as in a witch's coven. We're talking about the book. We're talking about the writing, what I liked, what I didn't like. We're talking about the nature of reality. And so I'm writing everyone that's involved every day and reminding them, you all insulate a palpable evil. That we're all famous, so we have to like stick together. It's like that Chappelle skit about black actors, right? Is a base evil supposition, right? That being famous is not an excuse to be evil, right? In fact, right, it's incumbent upon people who make the choice to become public figures to be twice as good, 4 times as good, exponentially better than everyone else, to make sure that we all understand and have the bar set at the appropriate height. So I'm just getting to the good part in the novel, and we're going to pick back up where I left off. I've written Quentin, and he'll be halting his production in due time. As far as the novel, everything that we're reading from here to the end is only the second draft. Right, so the first draft's all written by hand, right, between Halloween through February. Then the second draft is typing, is looking at the pages and typing them. And then the third draft is going back to the beginning of that and exploding, diminishing as needed. I like a lot of the writing, I will say that, despite it being rather crude. It exceeds itself in grace. Right. And then, right, we'll talk about the novel. Not only the novel, but the nature of reality, how Quentin and myself, our relationship is propagated, right? How it is perpetuated, right? The things that he does, the things that I do, right? Right? Good versus evil, heaven and hell, light and dark, right? And so I'm not in, just before we're beginning, right? Like, I'm not interested in casting my allegiances with Alex Jones and decrying the evils of Hollywood, right? That doesn't interest me, right? But it is palpably obvious, right? That they say one thing that they expect the public to believe, right? Because, right, they believe the opposite, right? Sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's sad, right? And so we'll talk about, the chasm that divides the two after I read from the novel. Building a Coven. I did novel write November. The book is about a mute quadriplegic who has recurring dreams about the ocean. Ocean days. His father is a take on Elon. Belon. If it's published or not, I would say it marks a shift. I am seeing literature in a different way. I always think as blue collar as possible. I strive to reduce things to simplicity. I want to write, and so I pick up a pen and write. But a great writer, a great piece of writing, requires more. You have to see it all the way through. This book marks the first time I saw it collapsed as a whole idea. Every other time I have been reaching for the future as it unfolded, groping for information and resolution. But now, it is a psychic sculpture. The quadriplegia is explained. The dreams never are. Tonight has been exceptionally anxious. When I left the show last night, I felt an acidity. Something in the air. While writing, as I always do, during my 2 hours backstage, my letters to Alistair all came flooding back. I had read that his production had halted, but only when I saw him in my mind's eye and heard him saying, "If this guy writes me again, let me know," as well as, "Okay, dude, let's do it." Only then did I do the calculus. My notebook is all but new. Only the first 6 pages or so are filled. My cast member made a joke about casting spells. Today saw me realize that the feeling I had after the show last night was in fact due to these pansy fucking actors opening my notebook and reading it while I was acting on the stage. As the day bled into the afternoon, my psychic eye could feel the depth of their shame. It infuriates me. By the time I had to go to the theater, I knew that they left me no choice but to say something. I rushed into the theater, slung my backpack down, yanked my notebook out of it, yelled, "Listen up!" and went the fuck off. I yelled until I was thrown out. I have more to say. Only one truly deserving got the full demon eye. The rest had palpable shame in their eyes. But they all heard and learned something about boundaries they should have understood already. Any man who willingly opens another man's personal and private notebook without permission has no honor and can never be trusted. It was 3 or 4 of them who looked at it, stealing Alistair's name and our association. I cursed that fucking production in my apartment before arriving, and my ears started ringing. I intended to do it on the stage. Didn't get the chance. It is a hackneyed amateur production already cursed to mediocrity, and needs no psychic stimuli from me or any sorcerer to impel its self-destruction. I decided to write one more letter to Alistair. I felt that the strongest choice was to turn it into a virtue. I mailed him a postcard I was given. Upon it I wrote, "Merry Christmas to the Hoffman family." In my artistic arrogance, I hoped he would send someone to watch me act. I did my rant as a scene and included it in the letter, wherein I lamented that he could no longer see me act, but that I did what I knew to be necessary to take back my mind. I heard him say the day it arrived, "This fucking guy's got balls!" Though I am aware he is upset about my hair, it was perfect. Everything is falling apart again. My relationship has never been more strained with my roommates. While rehearsing for Cymbeline some time ago, the boy went into my room while I was gone and stole 10 milligrams of Adderall from me. I considered saying nothing, but it felt so egregious, the violation of personal space. I told Cosio. He apologized and put a lock on the door. Now I see the door has been pried open with a flathead screwdriver. When exactly, I cannot say, but it has put me back in my rage. It is woman. She resents I give her no power over me. If she wasn't a dog, an old beat-up battle axe of a warhorse of a bad actor, perhaps I might be stirred to sympathy, but I see how she manipulates Cosio. All the trappings of a green card chaser. Plastic allegiances forged out of necessity. Removed from love. Cold intellectual truth. The boy's a candy-ass fag in training. Soft. Unfocused. He draws and has some talent, but lacks discipline. I know they make jokes at my expense in Bulgarian. Even at home, the monkey exists in his cage. Exhibitionist, through and through. This is what I like about acting, the equal exchange. I come onto the stage, theatrical or sound, offer the interpretation, the audience watches. This is fair. In this, as with writing and music, I offer something equivalent to the depth of intrigue the public at large seems to feel for me. Often it is infuriating. I despise when I see dumb bitches across from me on the subway take pictures of me writing and adorn their bullshit post with the same smug irony plastered all over their one-dimensional faces. Other times, beautiful women produce their own notebooks and stare awkwardly between their largely blank page and my ferocious intent. New Year's Eve and day have come and gone. I sat with Kosio and his little girl, 8 years old. She is a radiant ball of light, who often made jokes about me being sad about my girlfriend leaving me when I showed her videos of me playing guitar and singing, which made me chuckle. On New Year's Day, she shoved her juice cup towards me and said, "Bring me some wine!" To which I said, not thinking mathematically at all, "Yeah, ask me again in 10 years. She looked up at me and said, "Oh yeah, when I'm 18? I felt like a dirty old man. Should be breaking hearts in no time. I see now why Kosio's wife broke into my room. She is conniving with conspiracies. I couldn't understand it. The why. All these people violating my personal space. Why? Because I don't kiss their ass or expect or need their approval? I realized around the same time I saw the damage to the door I had bed bugs. But it took a while to put the pieces together. Could I have gotten them along the way? I guess it's possible. Highly unlikely. There's no reason for anyone to go in there. After the Adderall was stolen, I have since adopted the policy of perpetual possession to mitigate theft. There is, or was, rather, nothing in that room beyond books, the notebooks of my writing, enough clothes to last 1 week, my guitar, and that's it. Seeing as how she doesn't read or write English or play guitar, her reasoning becomes singular. Sabotage. I know she doesn't want me here anymore. I don't intrude as much as I am able. I cook sometimes. I go play guitar as much as I can. But not working 40 hours a week has seen her burn out as far as tolerance, though it is unjustified. Her frustration or despisal even. And she got her way. Though I am here currently, and she is allegedly staying in a battered women's shelter in the Bronx, though I do not know. Kosio and I have run the gambit. He wants me out and her back in, though he would not admit it. He is in Bulgaria. I'm the only one here. After I paid $870 towards a $1,000 rent, he told me I had to go before month's end. Immediately, if he had his way, and I raged again. As far as taking my money all those weeks, when I could have been looking for another place. Eventually, he agreed to give me all the money back, and we performed this piece of theater where I followed him to the bank because I no longer trusted him, watched him get a money order, and then walk away with it. I tried to take possession of it there, but he professed something fraudulent, said he would give it to me later, and walked away. As soon as he did, I knew I couldn't trust him. And so I called him back, and he didn't answer. So I left voicemails and texts saying I intended to bring the police between us to ensure I got that money. I walked to 2 precincts. The first was a vehicle yard or some such. The second one informed me that all I could do was call 911. They did not encourage me, though the opposite is true as well. When I arrived and explained, Kosio said I could stay there through the month, which is all I wanted. I do not want to be where I am not wanted. He didn't want me to stay because he wants to go to Bulgaria, but he relented, which tells me everything I need to know. That he had no intentions of giving me that money. That he was going to give me a forgery. When he finally asked me why I was sleeping in the living room, I confessed about the bed bugs. He took it okay, but we fought until the day he left, the night before. We talked most of the night. Drinking. Asking obtuse questions with no answers. I showed him Clam, and he commented on how it wasn't commercial music. Like Zappa, he said. He helped me appreciate Mozart, often talking about the crystal that is Mozart's body of work, with Requiem, the final piece, holding a special place in his heart. I set out to listen to all of them, and did listen to 1 through 7. I was struck by how short most of them are. I have yet to listen to Requiem. I know I should. So I have these few days alone in this nice apartment before I have to leave the city. I have decided to go back on the road for money. Alistair is still developing. I write when I can, though I am in penury. I appreciate Alpine for taking me back. I am stopping through Alabama to get my unrestricted driver's license. It will cost something. Hopefully, it is not too much of a headache. And so I'll stop there. So we're talking about the novel. We're reading through the novel, right? We're talking about, right, what I liked about the writing, what I didn't like about the writing. We're talking about the nature of reality. We're talking about my relationship between myself and Quentin Tarantino, right? All in an effort to bring everyone into the conversation. Sorcery is done in the dark. Magic is done in the light. I betray no master, right? Right? I betray no order, and so I initiate the whole world because I have no choice. Right? Production Weekly has published that Quentin Tarantino is kicking off an untitled production, right, in December. It's the movie Critic. It's the same movie. Right? So the tactics that he has done, right, which are so disgusting and base, right, they're the most devious, evil tactics that anyone can propagate, can push on someone else, right? And they're the most awful thing that any person can endure, right? That if this condition between the two of us, right, where I'm writing everyone and no one's replying at all because they all think that his lies are legit, right? They just think that I'm mentally ill, right? Then when he goes to shoot that film, right, he's gonna have 2 or 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, 10 people, however many people, right, torture me with a palpable evil that no court can ever try them on, right? And so, right, we're talking about it. That's what's occurring now on this channel, right? I'm the guardian angel of the world, and perhaps some of you, the 5 subscribers that I have, might be wondering, where does he come up with this nickname, the Millennial Dragon? Right? Of course, as with the novel title, Building a Coven, it came from Alistair, right? Came from Quentin, right? Alistair Hoffman is Quentin Tarantino. And where did it come from specifically, right? It came from his father-in-law, the maestro, right? Right? Again, this is a very dense braid of psychological and sexual torture, right? And so, right, while the daughter saga while we were all just getting caught up in terms of the truth, like realizing what the truth is, right, the maestro said, oh, he's unlocking the most powerful prowess that will be witnessed on the earth in 1,000 years. It has nothing to do with the fact that I am a millennial, right? And so that's where the name comes from, right? Is it true? Of course. Right? So let's talk about the writing. That was a very tumultuous time in my life. I remember that it seemed like, and there's some sort of perverse reality here that all I'm ever trying to do is have people look me in the eye and ask me what they want, and I'll help them as much as I can, and all they ever seem to think is appropriate is to violate me, right? That's right. And so that's what occurred with those actors, right? That's what occurred with Kosio's wife, And of course, right, on the highest level, the absolute highest level, that's what has been occurring and is occurring with Quentin and his cabal of degenerates. Right? That right, they think wisdom is something that they have the right to abuse, and it's very upsetting to think about. It's very upsetting, right? So, right, we're getting into it now, right? And we're roughly, right, 231 pages, right? We're almost right at halfway, right? And so it's 130,000 words, right? Which will likely be, by the time I bring up everything, right? 300,000, 400,000, and then I'll have to hack and slash, right? So this channel exists, right? Because I live in perpetual fear, as well as, right, because he fucks with me constantly, right? But that's, right? Right? He's run my name through the mud all over town, right? And I don't care about that. Doesn't, right? Right? I chose the right side. Hollywood ain't for me. Right? This man has the maturity of a 5-year-old, right? He understands nothing, right? He doesn't see what's good in his life. We wouldn't be here now if this was just about a movie. That's the point. Right? And I understood his frustration and his resentment, right? Not anymore. Not anymore, right? Like I watch all these videos and I say, oh, it's all my fault and all these things, and that's true. Like as far as Tribeca, as far as me not being a movie star now, like yeah, that's true. But this man is just evil. He doesn't see anything that's good in his life, right? He doesn't see how blessed he is. He doesn't see how God has blessed him. He doesn't see, right, that these things that he plays with, right? 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 And so what do I mean? Right? What am I talking about right now? Right? I believe it's in Leviticus. I can't recall. I don't have my Bible at hand right now. But Aaron's sons, right, die conjuring strange fire on the mercy seat. Right? And so, right? What is Moses talking about? What is he talking about when he says, if you turn your face to Moloch, I will set my face against thee. Right? I will remove thee from your people as well as your family, etc., etc., right? Right? He's saying that God alone sees all, right? That God alone can do whatever he or she wants, whatever it wants, right? And that there is a structure, there is a it's seemingly chaotic order to life, right? And that God alone has the capacity within itself, right, to, right, transmute, right, any part of the firmament into, right, anything that the Lord Almighty so chooses, right? And so, right, psychic occultism, right, instances of clairvoyance, telepathy, thaumaturgy, remote viewing, right, that all of those words, right, they're the same things, all those tactics, right, that we call those things, they're all the same things that people refer to as magic and sorcery in centuries past, right? And so, right, the adept, right, the mind of the adept, the mind of the master, right, behaves like God, right, with their intention, right, do as thou wilt, will is the law, right, Aleister Crowley, right, and so that's why I named Quentin Aleister, right, Aleister Hoffman, right, as a synthesis of Crowley, and Albert Hoffman, the guy who made LSD, right? Because these are the games that he likes to play, right? That's it. It's not complicated, right? And so Aaron's sons die, right? Conjuring strange fire because they were playing the psychic mind game. They said, oh, well, Moses says that the tabernacle is designed this way, that we're supposed to do these things, but what if we replace this thing with that thing? Right? And so when he says they died conjuring strange fire, that what actually occurred is that they put a unique convocation of elements on the mercy seat, on where they offer their offerings, right? And it exploded and they fucking burned to death. That's like, right? It's not occult, it's not mysterious, right? That they're not chemists, right? They're priests. That's the point. Right? Right? When you reduce everything, right, to the simplest expressions of logic, right? The truth is always more or less obvious. Right? So I suppose I'll stop for now. I'm going to keep making these videos every day. Right? Like, comment, subscribe, share. Let me know what you think. Right? Life is not an accident. There is a latent intellect embedded within every cubic centimeter of space, diffused inside of a complex which is an infinite nesting of polyhedra. Right? So the mind of the adept, the mind of the psychic, the mind of the clairvoyant, the mind of the remote viewer is tapping into the non-locality of consciousness, right? And creating a bridge, right, which opens up an aperture, right, the mystery of the window, right, to the insight of the adept to reveal, right, whatever it is that they want or need to see. God bless. See what's good in your life. Uplift your soul to God.